Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hangout tonight. My name is Elian Ramos, and I'll be your hostess tonight. It's been almost a week since President Obama announced his historic executive action on immigration. And obviously, that's been the topic of the day every day ever since, especially in our community and in many other communities that have been affected by this new action. And there's so many questions out there among the people who may or may not benefit from this executive action. And to answer some of those questions, I couldn't think of any better group of people than my guest tonight. I have some of the top activists and people in the movement for immigration reform who have been there every single day fighting the good fight. I'm going to start from my left, introducing them. The first person here is Alejandra Saucedo, and Alejandra is the founder for Dreamers Moms. How are you, Alejandra?
Very good.
Thank you so much for being here, Ale. I know that a lot of your group of women have been fighting for a long time, and that they have a lot of questions. Alejandra is going to be speaking in Spanish and English, so we're going to have a little bilingual show tonight. So it's all good. Alejandra, muchas gracias. La segunda persona que voy a presentar es a Andrea Mercado, y Andrea es she's the co-chair for We Belong Together. Andrea has been a guest before. How are you, Andrea?
Muy bien. I'm doing well. Thanks.
Thank you so much for being here again. Welcome to the show. Next, I have Jose Diaz, and Jose is the executive director for DC Dream. It's an organization that has been helping dreamers all over the country. And Jose, welcome to the show tonight.
Thank you for having me.
The next person is Julieta Garibay, and Julieta is the Deputy Advocacy Director for United We Dream. Welcome, Julieta.
Thank you so much for the invite, Elaine.
Good to have you here. And the last person, but not least, certainly, she's going to be answering a lot of your questions tonight, is immigration lawyer Lucero Ortiz. Esquire. How are you, Lucero?
Buenas noches, everybody.
Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Yes, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
It's so great. It's so great to have you all here, especially with all these questions. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time. I know that we have a lot of questions and not too much time. So let's go right into it. I want to know, off the top of your head, your gut feeling. What was your first reaction when you heard the president announcing this new executive action? Anybody can jump in.
Andrea, si hablo en español, ¿me irías traduciendo, por favor? Sí, ¿cómo no?
Bueno, para Ale la pregunta fue que ¿cuál fue su reacción primera cuando escucharon el anuncio del presidente?
Voy a hablar a nivel organización, ¿no es cierto? Consideramos que es una gran victoria, que gracias a la pelea de tantas organizaciones pro-inmigrantes se hizo un gran paso hacia adelante, pero que no está terminado aún, que queda todavía mucho por hacer y que, bueno, esperamos en los republicanos, ¿no es cierto?, que si quieren llegar a la presidencial en el 2016 tienen que hacer mucho más de lo que tenemos hasta ahora.
Muy cierto, muy cierto.
So I said, you know, speaking from her organizational point of view, it was a real huge victory. It was a big step forward, and certainly it's not enough, and we're not done there. We have so much yet to do. And you know, the Republicans, if they really want to take the presidency in 2016, they're really going to have to step up to the plate on immigration as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And who else wants to say? I'm going to call on Julieta. Julieta, I want to hear, because your organization has been like on top of Obama since day one. What was your gut reaction to this?
I mean, it was, it's just a lot of feelings, literally. So there is, it's happiness because after we decided, actually in February of this year, we said we're going to pivot to pressure the president to give us an administrative relief for our parents. There's a lot of feelings when you say, okay, we got it. We won. The undocumented immigrant community demanded this from the most powerful men on the earth, and we won it. And at the same time, it's a little bittersweet because we still know that many people still didn't make it. Many of our leaders, their parents did not get benefited by this relief, and so we are very aware that the fight continues. But it's just there's a lot of feelings of excitement that the undocumented immigrants were able to put the pressure, they put the work on, they laid their bodies on the line, and they made this happen. But at the same time, it's just this fact of knowing that there's many who didn't make it, and that we'll continue to fight for them, and we're very much committed to them as well. So a lot of feelings, and we're ready to keep going.
Very good. Anyone else?
Sí, ya era hora que esto se diera. Muchas familias todavía quedaron fuera, pero hay que seguir luchando. Como Ale dijo, que esto es un primer paso y el balón está en la corte de los republicanos a ver qué es lo que pueden hacer. Pero hay muchas familias que quedaron fuera y hace falta seguir luchando. Pero felices por las familias que pueden calificar para esto. Y estamos viendo en los próximos meses a ver cómo podemos mejorar el proceso ante el gobierno.
Buenísimo.
Sí, yo diría que hay muchas personas, muchos clientes que han esperado más de 20 años. En mi familia tengo 10 familiares que van a poder calificar bajo esta acción. Y para familias como la mía y tantas otras es poder respirar un poquito con más alivio, pero definitivamente sabemos que no es el paso final y que tenemos que seguir luchando para toda la comunidad. It's definitely a bittersweet, but for those that have been waiting for more than 20 years, it's a great step forward.
Beautiful. And I want to know, I know, Andrea, that you haven't said, but let's start with you on the next question. Your organizations kept fighting, even when it looked like everything was lost. You know, like we had the Senate bill passed over a year ago, and then we were all expecting for something to happen, and then nothing, and then nothing, and nothing, and nothing, and then the elections came, and nothing, and so everybody kind of gave up. So what kept you going, even when you thought that everything was lost? Andrea, I would like for you to answer.
You know, I mean, I think it's an interesting question, Eliane, because I think we fight for our families. Like, we don't really, no nos queda de otra, you know. And you know, the immigrant rights struggle in this country has been long and hard, and you know, we stand on the shoulders of giants. So, you know, I think that we've been carrying the torch forward, and so many young activists have come up in the last few years and bring new energy, and then there are, you know, the diehard, you know, the women who have been on the front lines, like my compañera Maria Reyes has been on the front lines for over a decade, and was in front of the White House this week. And so, you know, I think we struggle together, and we fight together, and we cry together, and we win together. And I think for me, that was like the biggest emotion, is like the feeling that organizing works, right? That, you know, no era pérdida de tiempo. You know, we're out there on the streets, saying that we're not going to take it anymore, and then, you know, like Julieta said, we're able to create the space for the president to act, and it's tremendously significant. And obviously, it's not everything that we need and everything that we want, but it is a really huge breakthrough.
For sure, for sure. And okay, so we understand that the historic nature of this action, right? We know that this is something that, I mean, when was the last time that any president was able to do something? You know, I think it goes back to Reagan. But now, after the elections, something shifted, right? And so what do you foresee? You know, how safe are these measures? Can they be revoked now that the Senate and the House are Republican, and they're so, or the majority of the Republicans are so against immigration reform? What do you guys think?
I mean, for United We Dream, at least, it's been very clear on where the Republicans stand. for the past 2 years. They did not. They were able to do something in the Senate, work bipartisan way, and then the House was a complete failure. The leadership within the House did not do anything, and even worse, they actually voted on measures to defund DACA, to get rid of the executive power, to basically say, yeah, we should deport these dreamers and their families. And so to us, it's a very clear message. And then even like as soon as the president came out saying, you know, this is what I'm going to do, they started saying, Ted Cruz, for example, started saying, you know, we're going to impeach you, we're going to sue you, this is unconstitutional, and so went on, as well as Mitch McConnell and Boehner, both leadership from the Congress, saying you cannot do this, but yet not putting any humane, real solutions for the undocumented immigrant community. And so to us, yes, there is a risk that they could get rid of it. Of course there is. But I think to us what was very clear after making DACA happen in 2012, making this happen in 2014, we know that we're going to defend it. And we're also going to defend it kind of like, as Bernard said, with tooth and nails. Our families matter, and that's why we're going to defend it. And I'm sure there's going to be a rough 2 years, but we're ready for it.
Do you think this has affected the bigger fight? You know, there's a lot of people saying that before this happens, saying, oh, no, this is, you know, you can't pressure the president because that's going to affect the bigger fight. So what do you think about those things? And anyone can jump in.
I think that the moment that is now is giving relief to people is very exciting. I think it doesn't take away the pressure off a permanent solution. We're seeing with Dreamers now that some of them their DACAs or their renewals are being delayed, so there are growing frustrations there. I think this does put pressure on Congress to act and to govern. It has shown that the president has acted not as we would all like to be more inclusive to all families, especially those that are documented and don't have any citizens or legal permanent residents in their family. But I think it puts the issue in 2016 to be part of the presidential campaign. I don't think it takes it off of there. So moving forward, I think that all the organizations are looking forward to the fight and holding both parties accountable to solve this issue. And Republicans have an opportunity. Now the question is, do they want to take advantage of it, or they listen to the Ted Cruz of the world or the Jeff Sessions of the world, let them define the party, or do they want to have a future in American politics?
Anyone else?
From a legal standpoint, constitutional scholars have really spoken on this issue before. Again, we know that presidents have taken similar actions going back 60 years to President Eisenhower. So really, from that perspective, it seems like a vain exercise. We know that politics may lead the Republicans to follow the path of a lawsuit or other type of constitutional question. But there's so much evidence from law professors, from constitutional scholars, and others that really point to the fact that there is no direct injury to the Republicans that can raise standing and other requirements that they need to meet in order to move forward. But again, we know that politics and you know, just going into 2016, there's going to be a lot of noise made around this. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what the strategy is.
Yeah, pero estamos listos, ¿verdad? Are we ready? I want to talk a little bit about the actual executive action. Let's go into some of the details of the law. Y Alejandra, si quieres tú también en español, en inglés, como quieras, vamos a hablar un poquito de los detalles de la ley, ¿verdad? No de la ley porque no es una ley, pero de la acción ejecutiva, perdón. Vamos a hablar un poquito de los detalles. ¿Quiénes se benefician? ¿Quiénes no se benefician? ¿Qué va a pasar con las personas que no se benefician? A ver, ¿quién quiere empezar?
Yo voy a decir algo que sí que sentí mucho, pero bueno, es un paso más que se logró, pero sí no calificaron los padres de los Dreamers. Sí. Pero bueno, pienso que hay que seguir peleando, que esta vez que estuve en Washington vi las mamás, los grupos, cómo están de fuertes, sí lloramos, como dijo Andrea, sí lloramos, luego reímos y luego juntamos fuerzas y ahí estamos, vamos para adelante, eso seguro.
Sí, sí. Kim, go ahead, Andrea.
Alejandra was saying, you know, I think, you know, one thing that I'm very sad to say is that, you know, parents of dreamers will not be included in the president's action, and that was obviously a big blow. And, you know, I was in Washington, D.C. with Dreamers' moms, and, you know, we cried together, like Andrea said, and we laughed. And, you know, we moved forward, and we really gather strength from each other, and we know that we're going to keep fighting, and that this is an important step forward, but it's not the end.
Exactly. And what are your thoughts on the conditions, the requirements? There's a lot of requirements in this. Julieta, can you tell me a little bit what you think about that? Do you think they're too strict or they're not enough?
I mean, they're similar to DACA, so I think it's important to remember that we were deeply saddened that the parents of Dreamers were not included, because many of our leaders their entire family is undocumented, and so that was a very hard pill to swallow. But we also need to remember that the parents of people who have U.S. citizen children or LPRs or green card holders, they're eligible for this deferred action. We're also very excited on the DACA front. So on the front of like dreamers who should have been eligible, but because they were older, they were not able to benefit. And so it was really beautiful to see that after the 2 years of really trying to push the administration on saying DACA needs to be expanded for every single dreamer. Also, we got the win of getting it expanded to 3 years. And so before, DACA used to be for only 2 years, and you would get a 2 years of work permit and 2 years deprived from deportation. Now it's 3 years, and that's something that we fought, that we were happy that it happened. We were also happy to see that now advanced parole or traveling outside the country and being able to come back to the U.S., that's going to be an option as well. And also that, and I think those are the main things that we're happy for. I think the requirements are still the same. We're saddened that for example, DUIs are still have the same. It's still the same issue with DACA. So I know many times some of our communities have drank and have driven, and that does happen, and happen in the general public. But I think for us it's hard because we know there is people in the community that have had DUIs, and those changes are going to affect them. And so the criminal bars as well as the DUIs were not much compared to DACA, but I think it's definitely like Ale said, señora Ale said, you know, it's a good start. Y lo digo en español, estamos sí muy tristes y ha sido muy agridulce saber que los padres de nuestros Dreamers no fueron incluidos en esta acción ejecutiva. Muchos de nuestros líderes tienen una familia completamente indocumentada, que todos son indocumentados, entonces ha sido difícil tratar de sobrepasar eso. Al mismo tiempo estamos gustosos de que ahora familias que tienen hijos que son ciudadanos o que tienen tarjetas verdes, los padres van a ser elegibles, van a poder salir de la sombra, poder obtener un mejor trabajo, poder vivir, ahora sí que respirar como la gente normal. Estamos gustosos de los cambios que se hizo en DACA específicamente, porque empujar a la administración y a DHS a decirle que DACA debería de ser expandido para todos. Entonces estamos gustosos de que pudieron expandir a DACA para los Dreamers que ya son de más edad, más viejitos. Estamos un poco tristes que Obama no tomó el paso más allá y decir, bueno, voy a incluir a aquellos que entraron menores de 18 años. Creo que ese cambio pudo haber sido hecho y sí estamos un poco enojados de que ese cambio no se hizo porque también dejó a muchos de nuestros Dreamers fuera. Pero al mismo tiempo sabemos que los Dreamers que son de más edad van a poder ser elegibles. Estamos gustosos de que ahora el cambio, vas a recibir tu permiso de trabajo, así como no deportación, por 3 años ahora. Es algo que estuvimos empujando, que estuvimos demandando mucho y que lo logramos. También estamos gustosos de que advanced parole el poder viajar fuera del país internacionalmente y poder regresar a los Estados Unidos va a ser una posibilidad. Entonces, creo que fue una gran ganancia, si está incompleta y está imperfecta, pero estamos orgullosos de lo que sucedió.
Sí, muy bien. Le voy a pedir a las demás que están en el Hangout, a los demás panelistas, que se pongan en mudo, por favor, o que cierren las otras ventanas que tienen abiertas, porque así no tenemos el eco. Y ya cuando quieran hablar, entonces me hacen una señal y yo les quito el mudo. Muy bien. Sí, porque estamos teniendo como que doble recepción. We're having a little echo here. Let's go with when do people need to start applying for this? When is the application process going to start? I know it's not ready right now, but a lot of people are confused about that. And also, what can people start doing now to get ready for when that time comes, so that they can hit the ground running? Who wants to answer that one?
Well, I can start by saying that, yes, thank you for saying the application is not ready, and it's very important that people are aware of potential scams. We know that notarios in the past have taken advantage of the time period when DHS or others are getting, or USCIS, are getting the process and application ready. So we want to make sure that people know the application process for the expansion of DACA is likely going to be available in March of 2015. So it was a 90-day delay. And for the deferred action for parents, I think they're calling it DAPA, so deferred action for parent accountability, will likely be available in May, so about 180 days. So again, folks can start gathering their documents. For parents, some of the documents that are going to be very important are going to be the birth certificates of their children, their U.S.-born children, or the legal permanent resident children, as well as passports for themselves and their children. And in addition, documents showing your continuous presence in the United States from January 1st, 2010, so for the last 5 years. So again, documents that really show you've been in the country continuously, and then also that one of the requirements being that you were in the United States on November 20th, which again was the Thursday. So people need to start gathering those documents, but applications will not be ready until later in 2015.
Uh-huh. Entonces las aplicaciones para decirlo en español, y Andrea, okay, bien. Para decirlo en español, las aplicaciones van a tener un periodo de unos 150 días, ¿has dicho? Van a estar listas alrededor de mayo del año que viene. Entonces las personas deberían de empezar a recolectar su documentación ahora para que estén listos para ese tiempo. Algunos de los documentos que se van a requerir van a ser los certificados de nacimiento de sus niños y pruebas de que han estado en el país desde enero del 2010 hasta ahorita, y durante todo este periodo. Entonces, tienen que tener prueba de todo eso. Hay más requerimientos, hay toda una lista de cómo evitar las estafas. Hay un montón de estafas que están pasando o que ya se está previendo que vienen. Hay un par de sitios de internet que tienen mucha información sobre cómo evitar las estafas. En el sitio web de USCIS, que es el Departamento de Estado que tiene de inmigración, tiene mucha información sobre cómo evitar las estafas en español y en inglés. The USCI website has a lot of information on how to avoid being scammed during this period, because we are foreseeing that there's going to be a lot of that going on. Continuing in the same kind of vein, how are crimes going to be defined in this? I know one of the requirements is that people don't have any crimes or anything that is against the law.
Before we pass on to that point, I did want to say one thing to your earlier point, which is that for a lot of for many women who work as domestic workers in the informal economy, don't get paychecks, get paid in cash. It's going to be really important that we can be very creative about how people prove their presence in the country. Everything from doctor's appointments, records of that, to receipts. So we'll have to, I think we'll come up with a long list of how people can be really creative about proving their presence in this country, and vamos a estar bien al pendiente a las pruebas y cómo estamos probando que hemos estado en el país, porque sabemos que para muchas mujeres inmigrantes, si trabajan como trabajadoras de hogar o trabajan en su propia casa, no les pagan en cheque, les están pagando en efectivo. Entonces podemos ser muy creativas en términos de cómo estamos probando que hemos estado en el país todo este tiempo, usando, recibos de citas médicas o diferentes recibos de las compras que han hecho, y vamos a tener una lista comprensiva de los diferentes tipos de cosas que pueden usar para probar su presencia. Y en términos de este punto de cómo se están cambiando, creo que es un punto muy importante, y voy a dejar que otras pueden hablar más de los detalles, pero en términos, hemos estado luchando comunidad por comunidad en contra de comunidad, una política de colaboración entre la migra y la policía. Y un logro que tuvimos en esta acción ejecutiva y esto sí afecta a todos, no importando si califican para el permiso de trabajo o no, es que antes cualquier arresto estaban refiriendo a la persona a la migra, ¿no? Y sabemos que los arrestos no significan que uno es culpable, y dado la criminalización de nuestra comunidad, es muy fácil que detengan a alguien por manejar sin licencia o cualquier otra cosa. Y un cambio bien significativo es que ahora solamente personas que tienen convicciones, que han ido a la corte y han decidido que la persona es culpable, van a ser transferidos a la migra, y hay ciertos delitos menores que no están incluidos, y es más supuestamente enfocado en delitos mayores, pero hay muchos detalles que todavía no sabemos, que vamos a tener que estar al pendiente. So I just wanted to say quickly that I think it's really important you raise this point around convictions and who qualifies and who doesn't, and this is a really important victory in the president's announcement that affects everyone, which is that the police will no longer be turning over to immigration people who are arrested. And we know, given the history of criminalization in our communities, that people can be arrested for any reason, and it doesn't mean that they're at fault. It could be for something very minor, like driving without a driver's license. And now the system is changing so that only people who are convicted of a crime and convicted not just of misdemeanors but of more serious crimes will be turned over to immigration, and that's a real game changer for our communities. And I'll let other folks say more to how they're defining those, but there's a lot of details that haven't been worked out yet, and so all of our groups will continuing to be advocating to make sure that those details are as expansive and as possible.
Beautiful. I actually, Andrea, to your point, I heard today, I saw an article about how people are using Foursquare and check-ins on social media like Facebook to demonstrate that they're being in the country. So those are very creative uses of social media that may be useful in the future when you are allowed to finally deposit your papers and submit them. So anybody else wants to add anything else to that, to the part about who wouldn't qualify? What makes something qualify as a crime or not is, for example, if you get a traffic infraction, like a ticket for a violation, would that qualify for you to get deported? Would you be able to be turned over to ICE? I guess Lucero can answer this one.
So one of the things that we've been looking at, again, Andrea and others have said, we're still waiting for guidance. A lot of information will come out that will clarify some of these questions. But at this point, we're borrowing a lot from the DACA experience. And so we know with DACA, some of the crimes that were listed in terms of not being able to apply start with DUIs and then more serious misdemeanors and then felonies and other crimes. In terms of traffic infractions, speeding tickets, parking tickets, those types of things. Based on the doc experience, we haven't seen that those types of things alone would rise to the level of a misdemeanor or something that would make somebody inapplicable for this process. Again, we're waiting for more information, but at this point, it really, I think, starts at DUI, serious misdemeanors, and felonies. But again, given that secure communities is no longer in play, we really hope to see that there won't be as many folks being turned over to ICE and really fighting deportation as opposed to fighting a traffic ticket.
Right. Nosotros también hemos recibido una serie de preguntas a través de llamadas con la página que hemos creado junto con Ale y Jurors Moms. La pregunta más que hemos recibido es ¿qué va a pasar si tengo una orden de deportación vieja? ¿Qué va a pasar si entre el tiempo que desde ahora hasta que el gobierno haga una forma para poder aplicar, si inmigración me recoge ahora? ¿Me van a tratar de deportar si califico para este programa? Esas son las dos preguntas yo creo que hemos recibido.
¿Alguien quiere hablar de esto?
Lucero.
Lucero, te tenemos hoy en línea.
De nuevo, ahorita nada es seguro. Sabemos que personas que tienen orden de deportación, ICE y el Departamento de Inmigración ha empezado a darnos un poco de información para personas que sí califican bajo la información que ya tenemos, pueden empezar a defender su caso, empezando con eso, diciendo que ellos califican bajo el anuncio del presidente y van a someter sus peticiones para poder aplicar. De nuevo, sin más información, tendríamos que tomarlo de caso en caso, pero sabemos que una orden de deportación no tiene que ser el final de la aplicación o el final de las esperanzas que puedan moverse adelante con un poco de alivios a través de esta acción ejecutiva. Así que estamos al tanto para más información, pero no es un final absoluto tener una orden de deportación.
Qué bueno tenerte acá, de verdad, porque tantos detalles, ¿verdad? It's so good to have you, Lucero. You know all of these details, and of course we're gonna get more details as it comes. I'm gonna do a parenthesis here because Andrea has to leave. She has a child who is sick, and we wouldn't want to keep her away from her kid. So Andrea, I want to say thank you to you, and I know it's been a little bit of a sacrifice to be here with us tonight, but you're so committed to the community. Thank you so much for being here.
Gracias, nos vemos.
Bye, gracias a ti. Y bueno, continuamos entonces con todo esto. Y quiero hacerles otra preguntita que nos han preguntado. There's another question that came in through Facebook. And it's, what's going to happen to dreamers who get covered under this after the 3-year period? And this question comes from Arevalo Andres in Facebook. Anybody knows yet? Do we have those details yet? I guess Lucero? you're it tonight.
Actually, can you just repeat the question? I'm not sure I heard it clearly.
But so we know that some of the dreamers, the dreamer requirements have been extended, so that more dreamers can qualify for this. But they've been given a 3-year period, and then after 3 years, this person, Arevalo Andres, wants to know what's going to happen after the 3-year period that this covers ends, to those dreamers in particular.
Well, again, I think, again, we're borrowing at this point with a little bit of gap with information. We don't have the full guidance yet. So we're borrowing from the dreamer experience with DACA, in that the renewal process will likely be the same. But again, that's not something that we know for sure at this point. I don't know if Julieta or Jose have any more information about that. Ahorita no tenemos más información.
Right. One thing I wanted to add, so this is where I think also politics comes into play because the 3-year mark puts us at the next president. Right now with the DACA, if it expires, you get to renew it. And let's see if the next president in the White House is going to continue this program, or by then if we'll have immigration reform up almost passed or in the process of that happening. So I think the answer is, well, let's wait to see. But this is an important point why the community needs to continue to fight, and those that were covered under DACA and this new program, that they also need to be involved in fighting for themselves and also for those that didn't qualify. So we're waiting to see what happens.
I think one thing, just on the renewals for the 3 years, so we know people who haven't applied for example, the renewal or haven't applied at all for DACA, but they're eligible for the 2012 version. If you haven't applied yet, then when you apply, that's when they'll do the 3 years. But for example, for those who were already eligible for DACA, they already renewed. Let's say someone already renewed, already got their second time 2-year deprive and 2-year DACA. They're trying to figure out how to actually do that process of adding that one more year. So we're going to be definitely in the lookout of like, what does that look like? Just because we know there are some dreamers that are already renewed that only got their 2-year and not the new version of the 3 years. So we're still looking into what happens with that. So just wanted to point that out.
Okay, no, that's great, and thank you for bringing that up, because also there's going to be some kind of a gap there, and of course what Jose mentioned too is very important, because this 3-year period is going to run into the next president, and as we know, anything can happen there, right? Depending on who wins and how the situation is politically. So we're going to be watching for that. I'm sure that more information is going to transpire as the days go by on this. So then I have another question from the audience, and then I want all of you to see. Again, it's about requirements. Everybody is asking about the same thing. What happens to people who have children who are citizens but have a deportation order, or who have left the country voluntarily? This question came from Rocio Barajas, but it's one of the most common questions that I got when I asked the audience to send in questions. De nuevo, la pregunta en español es que, ¿qué va a pasar con estas personas que tienen hijos ciudadanos, pero que de repente tienen una orden de deportación, o que de repente se fueron del país voluntariamente y ahorita, pero tienen sus hijos que son ciudadanos de todas maneras? Entonces, ¿estas personas califican o no?
Yo quiero empezar solo por decir que el hecho de que el presidente en los últimos casi 6 años ha deportado más de 2 millones de personas hace que esta pregunta sea muy común, ¿no? Muchas familias han sido afectadas por esto y muchas familias siguen en el sistema. Así que esta es una de las preguntas que hemos hecho al Departamento de Inmigración. Hemos dicho, ¿qué pasa si alguien se fue voluntariamente antes de los 5 años? ¿Qué pasa si una persona fue deportada antes de los 5 años, regresó y tiene los 5 años aquí sin ningún problema? Y luego, ¿qué pasa si alguien ha tenido alguno de esos problemas dentro de los 5 años? Así que, de nuevo, esa información todavía no es clara. Las preguntas se las hemos hecho con diferentes alternativas al Departamento de Inmigración, y esperamos que cuando ellos nos den más información, esos puntos sean un poco más revelados.
Muy bien, entonces creo que lo mejor es que por ahora estemos en expectativa, ¿no? That we are in expectation of more details to come, and then we will be able to answer all of these questions that are a little bit more, dependent on case-by-case information. And so my next question is, what is next for the movement? What are your organizations going to be focusing from now on? I know that the fight is going to continue, but what are some of those initiatives that you are going to be launching? ¿Cuáles son algunas de las iniciativas que van a estar lanzando las organizaciones que ustedes lideran? Anyone? Ale, ¿quieres hablar un poquito? ¿Tú?
Bueno,
Calla.
tenemos que seguir por algo mucho más grande, ¿no es cierto? Pero mientras tanto, lo que nosotros informamos a nuestra comunidad es que recolecten toda información, toda documentación de identidad de cada uno que piensa que es elegible de los últimos 5 años. Sí aclaramos también en cuanto al fraude, sí aclaramos también que no es una ley, que tenemos que luchar por conseguir algo mucho mejor, para que las familias, obvio, no sigan siendo separadas. Tenemos mucho temor. ¿Qué va a pasar ahora después del budget, del presupuesto fiscal, de la cuota de cama? ¿Qué va a pasar con los padres y los soñadores?
Sí. ¿Y cuál es la iniciativa que han formado con José?
Bueno,
Uno de los dos me puede contar.
colaboradora con el proyecto estamoslistos.org y se basa en talleres informativos, que ya empezamos los talleres informativos en diferentes ciudades y como pruebas pilotos y vamos a seguir ampliando para poder llegar a la comunidad. Como vos bien sabés, nosotros nacimos en las clínicas de acción diferida. Y de ahí nos entusiasmamos, empezamos y seguimos mucho más entusiasmados ahora porque sabemos que aunque muchos padres no entran, otros padres están felices y recurren a nosotros de diferentes maneras. Entonces vamos a trabajar con este proyecto, estamos listos, pero también luchando un poco más fuerte y yo creo que tiene que ser cada vez más unidos para poder lograr una reforma comprensiva.
Y también para agregar al punto de Ale, en la página Estamos Listos, estamos recaudando las preguntas que las personas tienen. Es importante informarse y estar al tanto a lo que va a anunciar el gobierno, pero presenten nuestras preguntas porque entonces nosotros vamos a poder decirle al gobierno, ¿has pensado en esto? ¿Has pensado si alguien tiene una orden de deportación vieja? Y entonces para poder abogar por esas personas, para que cuando el gobierno haga esa clarificación a los requisitos, su voz se haya a escuchar en esas conversaciones con el gobierno.
Very good. And so keep the questions coming and send them to all of these different organizations, because that way they continue advocating with you, with the lawmakers, to make sure that all of the specific cases are thought about and included in the determinations for this and the requirements. And you wanted to say something, Julieta?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for United We Dream, we have 3 top priorities. Of course, defending our victory. We know Republicans are going to attack, so we're ready to protect it. Number 2, of course, implementation through United We Dream, our We Own the Dream project, which basically makes sure that has helped DACA-mented dreamers actually get their DACA. We've been able to help at least 30,000 dreamers to be able to apply, and of course, we're going to continue helping now with DACA and DAPA. So we're very excited about that. And also, of course, doing local fights. We know that, like it was mentioned already, and that there were many parents, and not only parents, but many people that were left out of this executive action. So we know the local fights are going to be pretty tough. We know also with the many changes on governors or how the governors or the legislators change in many states, we know it's going to be a tough fight. For example, we know in Texas they're going to try to get rid of in-state tuition, so we're going to provide support to our dreamers there. We know there's going to be other states, like for example North Carolina, they're going to give driver's licenses to the DAPA, the parents with deferred action now, and so we know locally we're going to be there's going to be a lot of work, and so those are our priorities for the next year.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. And
I'll say
go ahead.
From the legal community, lawyers across the country, legal clinics, folks have really been rallying, and companies, when we saw the increase this summer, a lot of folks really came out and have started to do more pro bono work and low bono work to really make sure that we have fair legal representation for folks. And I think that organizing earlier this year will spill over into DAPA and the extension of DACA. So it's very exciting to see that, but we definitely need all hands on deck. I mean, 5 million people is a lot. I think this is definitely historic and unprecedented. Even in 1986 under President Reagan, it didn't even reach 4 million. So if and when everybody comes out, we definitely will need all hands on deck. And more than anything, the importance of really making sure that these are qualified attorneys who have been trained and who understand the process. So, desde el punto de vista de la comunidad legal, estamos listos, como dicen las Dreamers Moms, estamos listos y nos hemos estado preparando desde el verano y desde hace varios meses para responder la necesidad de los niños que vienen sin compañía y también las familias y refugiados que miramos anteriormente. Todos los abogados, estudiantes legales, clínicas, hay muchos esfuerzos y organizaciones sin fondos de lucro. Hay muchas organizaciones comunitarias que están listos y se están preparando porque sabemos que esto va a ser un esfuerzo monumental. O sea, nunca se han visto 5 millones de personas que vengan, salgan de las sombras a la misma vez y vamos a requerir todas las manos, todas las personas que estén adecuadamente entrenadas y que tengan el conocimiento legal adecuado para poder ayudarles en este esfuerzo.
Sobre todo eso, ¿verdad? Es porque hay tantas, como dijimos antes, hay tantas estafas allá afuera, ¿no? Y tantas personas que se aprovechan de la nobleza, como diría el Chapulín Colorado, ¿verdad? Okay. Entonces porque ya vamos terminando, me gustaría que me digan, por la misma razón de que la gente necesita información de confianza, ¿no? People need information that is reliable, that comes from a good source. So what are some of these places where people can go to find reliable information? ¿Dónde están estos sitios donde pueden encontrar información que sea de confianza? ¿Alguien quiere?
Por lo tanto, en nuestra página puede encontrar información inicial de los requisitos. Vamos a trabajar para poner una lista de organizaciones en diferentes estados en que puedan conseguir información. Yo sé que United We Dream está parte de una mesa nacional con diferentes organizaciones que están trabajando con la comunidad de organizaciones no lucrativas y de la comunidad legal. Yo sé que Lucero puede expandir un poco la comunidad legal, cómo se está preparando, cómo para difundir información de a dónde pueden ir, no ser víctimas de fraude. En nuestra página estamos trabajando para incluir esa información también. Y es muy importante el fraude porque muchas familias están en esta situación migratoria desde el principio porque han sido víctimas de un fraude, de un notario que les recolecta el dinero y le dice que puede aplicar cuando no debe aplicar. En las llamadas que hemos recibido hemos dicho, si tienen alguna duda porque usted piense que no califique, asesórese. Es importante asesorarse con varias personas, con varios abogados, no nada más uno.
Muy bien, ¿y cuál es tu sitio web donde van a tener toda esta información?
Estamoslistos.org.
Very good.
Exacto.
The website is estamoslistos.org. And Julieta, you want to say what you guys are doing and where to find the information?
For United We Dream, we have all up-to-date information on what are the requirements. We're of course going to be launching and also an app so that dreamers as well as parents are able to check, okay, am I potentially eligible? Yes, no, and also with information of where can they go. So as I mentioned, we have our our Own the Dream program where they actually are locally working with our United We Dream affiliate. They are working also with the legal side where they actually set up clinics. Currently, they're doing mainly educational forums just to provide the information of what just happened. But once the actual application comes out, we'll be working to make sure that people are able to have a place where they can come, talk to an attorney, get their applications filled out, checked as well, and then they can send it over to USCIS. Our website is unitedwedream.org. Once again, unitedwedream.org. Para nosotros tenemos nuestro sitio del internet que es unitedwedream.org. Ahí tenemos información que está ahorita toda enfocada a qué es lo que sucedió, cuál fue el anuncio. Ahí van a encontrar información sobre cuáles son los requisitos más básicos que han mencionado para la expansión de DACA, así como para la acción diferida para padres. Pueden entrar a nuestro lugar de internet, donde vamos a tener también información sobre una vez que ya esté la aplicación disponible, van a poder ahí también entrar, poder poner su información, les podremos dar información donde habrá clínicas para poderles ayudar, donde también habrá abogados que normalmente siempre lo hacemos a costo gratis porque sabemos que es mucho lo que se va a cobrar para la acción diferida. Y en ese punto, en ese último punto, quería recordar a la comunidad, vienen la Navidad, vienen los festejos de diciembre, que se pongan a guardar en su cochinito porque la aplicación va a ser 465, así como es para DACA. Entonces, es mucho dinero para nuestra comunidad y queremos asegurarnos que cuando venga la aplicación, ellos puedan aplicar. Entonces, pónganse a juntar su dinerito desde ahorita para que puedan aplicar en cuanto esté disponible. Just one more thought for our community. Remembering that you have to save money. Yes, the Christmas and the shopping and the holidays are coming, but maybe it's a good idea to start saving so that whenever the application is actually out, when you're able to apply, you have that money there, because once again, it's going to be almost $500 for the application that each person has to pay. And so we know money short is hard to earn, and so we hope that you start saving already. Thank you.
Very good point. Thank you for saying that, because this is where a lot of our community gets, se frena, no? They get stuck on that because they can't really afford the application. So it's going to be almost $500. You should all get started saving and putting your money together for so that you're ready when this comes. Lucero has anything to say? Lucero, ¿me puedes oír?
Sí. En la comunidad legal hay varias organizaciones que están trabajando en esto. Tenemos AILA, que es la Organización Americana de los Abogados que ejercen inmigración. También tenemos a ABA, American Bar Association, que es la organización que otorga las licencias a todos los abogados. Así que es muy importante que si las personas van a querer buscar abogado, que ese abogado tenga licencia primeramente. Y en cada estado esa licencia se puede buscar en el internet. Así que cuando vayan y hablen con un abogado, pídanle el nombre como aparece en su licencia, el número de la licencia y en qué estado tienen su licencia. Así que ustedes pueden ir y asegurarse en el ABA o en diferentes páginas de internet. También a través del país hay organizaciones latinas de abogados. Aquí en la área de Washington, D.C. tenemos el Hispanic Bar Association de Washington, y en las ciudades a través del país hay organizaciones similares. Así que hay organizaciones de abogados legales, abogados latinos, organizaciones legales, y más que nada hay que como
no sé, está teniendo problemas.
Anteriormente hay que platicar solo porque several legal organizations, including AILA, which is the American Association of Immigration Attorneys, the ABA, American Bar Association, the Hispanic National Bar Association, and in cities across the country, there are Hispanic or Latino bar associations. And so folks really need to make sure that when they're talking to attorneys that they ask for the attorney's bar number. Everyone should be licensed to practice law in one of the respective states, and that you can go ahead and go online and check to make sure that that person's license is up to date and that they don't have any claims against them. So it is very important to talk to as many people as possible, again, to just really avoid scams. So as Julieta said, $500 per person on these applications. We don't want it to be $5,000 because you've been scammed. So really make sure that make sure that you're talking to the right people.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I want to, we're getting close to the end of the show here, but I want to thank you so much for all of this information. My God, I had no idea about some of the things that you said, and it's so amazing to see see that the community, the organizations that have been fighting all along are not giving up. The fight is getting renewed, and the animals are up there. We all have the fire inside to continue fighting for this. I want to thank everyone who is watching tonight for taking the time to watch this. All of this information is going to be available on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/user/Elian Ramos. And I want to make sure that you all go to all of these organizations' websites, because they have a world of information about all of these things that we've been talking about tonight. Quiero que vayan a todos los sitios web de todas estas organizaciones, porque ellos tienen un mundo de información allí que puede ser muy útil para todos ustedes sobre todo lo que hemos estado hablando esta noche. Pueden ir, por ejemplo, a dreamersmoms.org. Es la organización de Ale. También pueden ir a estamoslistos.org, que es la organización de José, la organización de Julieta, que es unitedwedream.org, y también la de Andrea, que se tuvo que ir temprano, pero que ellos también tienen muchísima información en su sitio web, que es webelongtogether.org. Y todas los sitios web que mencionó también Lucero, como el American Bar Association y todas las demás. Entonces, si tienen algo que decir, chicos, antes de irse.
Gracias por tenernos aquí esta noche y esperemos que muchas personas se hayan beneficiado de la información, y vamos a estar aquí y hay que seguir en la lucha. Estamos viéndonos pronto.
Muy bien. Muy bien. ¿Alguien más? Muy buenas noches a todos y muchas gracias. Todos estos sitios web están en su pantalla también, si los están viendo. Que pasen buenas noches y nos vemos la semana que viene. Chao, chao.
La lucha sigue. Bye, bye.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede. Hasta luego.
Chao.